that regard. And yeah, man, still up at 7 in the morning and working and going as late as I want to go. So yeah.
All right. So I like to ask this question with the people I've had on before. How do you see with this, COVID-19 virus, how is that going to affect production? I mean, it's going to obviously affect our everyday lives, but when we get into shooting, have you thought about this at all?
Well, yeah, I don't think it'll come back 100% until there's like a vaccine. There'll be certain types of productions, and if there's a way that there's a vaccine, look, everything has changed. There's going to be certain things that are permanently changed. It's almost like post 9/11 when like certain things will never be the same. Airports would never be the same. You know what I mean? And but then there's at least a sense of normalcy. So there's got to be movies made, and for me, it's okay because the hole that's going to be, who knows how long that hole is going to be, means that there's less movies being made, means the movies that we have, and we have, close to 50 in the catalog, will all have more value now because there's less being made and people are going to need movies. So it's, I think production wise, it'll come back. There'll be some changes, but and it's going to be a while, but it maybe beginning of next year. Let's see,
Yeah. So, and we'll get to all this, but you're what I call a mogul.
Thanks. All right.
You do a little bit of everything. You've written a best-selling book. You produce. You write. Obviously, you're a well-known actor.
Yeah.
How did you get started? I know you're from New Jersey. You grew up there. How did you go from growing up there? Like, is it something you were passionate about all the time, or how did you make it happen?
Well, 100%. I'd always been an actor was the first dream, and that was what I wanted to do and what I was pursuing. And in high school, I was in all the plays and musicals. I was the lead role, and the funny side trivia there is that she was 2 years older than me when she was a junior when I was a freshman, and then a senior when I was a sophomore. Was Vera Farmiga, who's a pretty huge star right now, Up in the Air, co-star with George Clooney, co-star with Leonardo DiCaprio in The Departed.
Sure.
And so she was my co-star in a lot of those until she graduated. Funny enough, somebody pointed out on the Wikipedia of my high school that we're listed as notable alumni, which I thought was funny. It'd be like a Wikipedia of my high school. But anyway, so I always wanted to do that. I had gone to college and in Montclair University outside of New York City, and I met a guy that, funny enough, randomly enough, just called me yesterday. I hadn't spoken to him in a year or more. No, more. It had to be 2-3 years, actually. And he was a waiter at a restaurant in Little Italy in New York City, and came up, and I was eating there with my family. And it was so funny because I didn't even want to eat there. And then I wanted to eat inside, not outside. So all of those things, like I wanted a different restaurant and I want to eat inside, all those things, they talked me into sitting outside. And the waiter that waited on us came up to our table and said, what can I get you? And my uncle was joking around. He said, what can we get you? It's like a joke. And he goes, how about some money for my movie? And I was like, you're making a movie? And that literally was the start of maybe a 2-3 year process of making a movie called Gravesend, which, making a long story short, was shot on the streets of Brooklyn. We would go up to a gang of thugs on a street corner and we'd be like, you guys want to shoot a fight scene? And they'd be like, yeah, all right. Big fights would break out. And when it was, and I was shooting, going to college at the same time, shooting all night, coming back. When it was done, however, we got Oliver Stone to put his name on it, and it was in theaters. And I was like the second or third biggest role in the movie. Oliver Stone Presents. It was called Gravesend. And I really thought at the time that I was never going to have to work outside of his act. I thought there was going to be like a mailbox full of scripts. And so that's the long part of the story. But basically the short part of the story is that then I took it upon myself. Once I was having great auditions, losing them to established celebrities, Ryan Felipe, Scott Wolf, and then who are not, who knows what they're doing now. But anyway, bottom line is I just took it upon myself to learn every aspect of filmmaking. And then that's, instead of getting the job as a waiter, I said, I want to learn how to produce, how to write. And that's where everything else from that just came on a lack of, wanting to leave the movie business. I just want to be in movies. So that was it.
So how did you actually get started? I mean, after that first initial project, how did you go? Because we met in Los Angeles. So however many years it's been. 8, 9 years, 10 years. How did you make the move to Los Angeles and become so successful in acting, producing? How did that all happen for you? Because it's such an uphill battle, and people don't realize that you need talent, luck, so many factors and intangibles go in to being able to make a living at what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, it took about 6-7 years of trying to get stuff going and figuring it out post Gravesend. I think that was 98 or so. And I started learning those other aspects of the business, writing and producing. But really, the first thing was raising money. That's what I became good at. But that didn't happen until 2005, I believe. And that was a movie that I had put together. I wrote a horror movie. And the joke was I was married in 2003. We were married for about a year. And then, I was taking little jobs here and there. As you know, I could do websites and I'm a computer guru, so I could do computer repairs and things. I was just making ends meet. And my wife at the time said she was pregnant with my daughter, Ella. And I was like, okay, now the heat's on. I can't mess around anymore. So I wrote a script in like a month called The Attic. It was a scary movie. And slowly, over the course of a year or so, like reached out to everybody and raised the money to shoot this movie. I think it was like $600,000 or so. And got the director, Pet Sematary. It was the starring Elizabeth Moss was the lead role. Alexander Daddario was her first movie. John Savage, great character. What's that?
She had Mad Men? Was
that? No, Elizabeth Moss, yes, Mad Men and now Handmaid's Tale. She's huge, yeah. Oh. And just Invisible Man, she was the star. I mean, she's gigantic. She won the Emmy multiple times. And she played my older sister. And so I wrote a role for myself as a good supporting role. But the joke is the movie kind of got trashed ultimately because I think the director, I didn't have power at the time. I wrote a horror movie. The director made an art house movie. And I think I didn't have any power to say, nah, I don't want it this way. And, but anyway, I got great reviews for my role. I gained about 30 pounds. I played an autistic guy with Asperger's, like severe. And anyway, that movie was the first time I did it. And so I went back and I said, how the hell did I do that? To me, I just did it out of fear. Like I just raised the money and just kind of happened. Then I went, wait, I started really analyzing my technique on how did I get lucky, what worked, what didn't work. And I mean, since then, and like I said, that was 2005. So 15 years, I've been refining that technique and growing as a producer, as an actor and everything. And that just, I've always said this, the how, if you ask yourself, how do I do anything? The why just has to be big enough. If I said to you, Dale, you got to climb Mount Everest, you're thinking, how the hell am I going to do that? If I said, I'll give you $30 million in cash if you climb Mount Everest, you'd find a way to freaking do it. You would be training for the next 3 years. You know what I mean? You'd be amazing because the why is big enough.
I'd die in the first 100 feet. I had the lung capacity to be durable, just so you know.
Well, you'd find a way to make bionic lungs or something like that. You know what I mean? Like so the why is always, well, maybe it's something much, if that Golden Gate Bridge, if, I've told you to walk across it, on your hands. So I don't know, anything, walk across a canyon on a 2x4, you know what I mean? Like something like that. You would do how to do it if the why was big enough. So in that case, the why was, I had a baby on the way. I had to figure out what to do. And the why was just, so the how just became, I'm going to make it happen. And that has been kind of a cry that I've had my whole life, is that I'll just make it happen. And so by the time I met you, I mean, not counting everything now, I think at that point I had produced The Attic, The Alphabet Killer, Love and Dancing. So I produced 3 films, raised varying amounts of money for all those films, and played roles in all of them. And I mean, that's not something where you can just raise money and give yourself a role. You better be able to bring it. And you know what I mean? I was proving that I could handle these A-list stars, be as good as they could be. And, like now it's like, I just looked at my screenplays. I've written 30 plus screenplays, and I've option sold or made into movies 24 or 25 of those screenplays. And I just produced my 16th movie. So yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. I mean, it truly is. I mean, especially you being in your 60s. I mean, that's quite a...
Yeah, that's it. No, it's the other way around. I always make that joke that it was like, yeah, you don't realize, like, my insides are in mid-80s. Like all the exactly. Chewed up, like, craziness that is in the stress, But,
well, to follow up on what you said at the beginning of that last comment, a movie that we did a movie together. We've done a couple, but this one was Hero of the Underworld, and we shot that in New York. And one of the producers, I don't know in what capacity, Greg Policini, we were at an after rap party at his house, and I was chatting with him, and I said, how did you first, get in business with Tom? Because I hadn't known you that long at the time, and I was curious. And he said, I pulled up somewhere, and he got out of a Porsche or Lamborghini or something. And because the guy assumed I had money because of that, and he wouldn't leave me alone. Like, until I wrote a check, he just kept hassling me. I thought that was so crazy, And so, what's your side of that?
Well, hassling him in the best way possible. I mean, it wasn't like I was, showing up outside his window and being like, and being, hey. He did. He pulled up. He had a yellow Lamborghini. I remember that Lamborghini very well. And it was a party for E-Bombs World, which was an old website, and he was there. And I identified him right away as a money guy. Funny enough, I will say this is when it pays somehow early on in your career to dress nice. I don't dress nice anymore. I mean, like, I guess, yes, I dress nice at premieres and stuff like that, but it's like I'm not concerned about my daily day-to-day stuff. But at the time I was. And I remember I had a Versace shirt on that said Versace right here. So it's like anybody that could look at that shirt and be like, all right, if he's wearing Versace, so, that was like one of my, and I didn't have that much money at the time. So it's like one of my 3 expensive shirts that I had on. And so who knows, maybe he thought I had some stuff going on. And I just started talking to making friends with him, but knowing this was the right person to talk to. But one thing I've never done, and I think it's definitely important as far as raising money goes, is I never put myself below anybody that had money at the time, and now I don't put myself above anybody. It's like the key is that there was always a status thing, like, and still to this day, and we've been to parties with huge A-list stars, one special, and I never put myself like, well, I can't talk, that person's over here. You know what I mean? The joke is most A-list celebrities that I see, I'm like, I'm better than that guy. Like, that's what's going through my mind usually. So,
yeah.
So as far as the money people go, I never went, I think there's very much a status thing that you have inside. And my colleague Michelle has always said that I have a certain air about myself that I never really put, like when, oh, this person's worth 300 million. I never went, oh, he's up here, I can't talk to that guy. And like, no, I went, yeah, we're peers. You just had made different choices and we're in a different industry. And I guess that's also a thing. I always think if I was in a different industry, it would have been much easier to make money initially and quickly. And tech industry, I got to make billions if I wanted to, but I want to be in movies. So
yeah. A couple things. I always like to ask people that I have on here, like, number one, do you remember where we met? And I want to follow up with something that I actually admire about you. And you're the only one I know that does this. If you text Tom, he on your iPhone, he has his read receipts on. So when he's read there's nowhere to hide. When he's read your text message. And also, if you call him, like, first ring, he's picking up. He's very available. And you're like, that's so opposite everyone else. So those are my 2 questions. Where we met, and why are you so like available like that?
Well, we met on eHarmony. No, we met at the what you call it, the Hollywood Poker tournament, the physical tournament, because Hollywood Poker was the app. We met at the physical tournament, and I think that was 2010, so it was 10 years ago.
That was my tournament actually, but.
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. It was the Love Across the Ocean. Hollywood Poker they were both sponsors. It was yeah. I'm sorry.
Come on.
Yeah, I think you were involved ancillary, some side, like you. And so anyway, yes, we met there, and I mean, it was just, obviously those poker tournaments are the celebrity poker tournaments, as you and I both know, are some of the most fun events in all of Hollywood. But anyway, as far as the being available, I would say there's probably some people that would say I'm not as available as you think, and that's because if they talk forever, or they talk about bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, well, first I enjoy talking to, but I mean, like, if you calling me, and one of my biggest things is efficiency, and even the people that work for me know if I have to repeat myself, I start to get ticked off. You know what I mean? Like, if they say, hey, how do we access this thing? I go, wait a minute, we were in a call last week and I went over how to access that thing.
Right.
Like, why are you asking me again? Because now you're wasting my time. And so as far as the text goes, I also, I guess, value other people's time too. So I realize if they're calling me or they're texting me, I always text them back, and it's like, the only times I won't is if somebody just called me on this and said, dude, are you okay? Literally because an hour went by. And that's because I told you, I was on a call from 12 to 1. Whatever time he texted me was in the middle of that call. And I forgot that he texted it. I just went back and was like, hey, man, sorry about that. And so I guess I get in trouble if I take longer than 5 minutes to get back to somebody. So it's put me in a bad situation. Let's say that.
I hear you. So I want to remind everybody who's watching, if you have a question for Tom, put it in the comments. And at the end of the interview, I'll go through and we'll ask Tom your questions. So
yes.
Put them in the comments, and I know it looks like I'm in San Francisco, but I'm actually in my brother-in-law's backyard in Nacogdoches, Texas. So But he's going to bring me those questions. So if you have a question for Tom, just put it in the comments and we'll get to it. And another thing to follow up on what we're just talking about, so many people in Hollywood are just so full of crap. You know, they present themselves who they wish they were. And so when I first met you at my poker tournament, I didn't really know you, but we hit it off right away. We were good friends pretty quickly. And you know, you said I have a couple projects coming up that you'll be great for. And I thought, okay, you know, sure thing. I'll wait by the phone. And then, you know, a year later, we'd started in 2 movies together in New York. And I just thought that was great because you said you're going to do it, and then you actually followed up and did it. And then our mutual friend, Brian Krause, who I had on a few weeks ago, I talked to him yesterday, and he says, well, yeah, you know, I talked to Tom, and he sent me a script. And so you're all over the place, man. Like, you know, I'm like, you're one of my close. How do I not know about that? But you're just always moving and shaking behind the scenes, and that's very cool.
Well, totally trying to get stuff going. And, you know, the key is, yes, there's a lot of Hollywood talkers, so to speak, and I try to identify those people and not work with them. But I'll still kind of run it up the flagpole. But again, I guess it's a couple things. I've always said I was a doer, you know, but that's also efficiency. You know what I mean? It's like, I just want to be efficient. That's it. It's like, and me talking to you and giving and blowing smoke up your eyes is not efficient, you know? And it's like, if I'm telling you I'm going to try to do something, I'm going to do it. I always also have said, if I say, you know, oh, you say to me, is this movie going to work out? I'll say, maybe. My maybe is better than most people's yes. I've always said that. Like most people, yeah, it's 100%. It's like bullshit. You know what I mean? Like my maybe is an actual maybe. Like it might happen, it might not. So I always try to, you know, whatever, come at everybody, be honest and straight, but at the same time, it's efficiency. It's not spinning any wheels because there's no reason for that. You know, I've always tried to, you know, be as efficient as possible.
Yeah. And we'll get into some of your movies and projects that you've done. And you're also, I mean, you wrote a best-selling book. And the thing that I don't really know a lot about is how to raise money to make a movie. Yeah. So, and you wrote a best-selling book that was, you know, the gold standard. I didn't mean to put quotes on that. I don't know why I did. It was actually the gold standard on making independent movies. How did you go about, obviously the hard way, you learned from the school of hard knocks, how to raise money and implement a plan to make these productions yourself without using studio money in Hollywood.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's, again, I think that the key is I've been refining that technique for a long time. So I always say in my webinars and the teaching and stuff, is that if here's the maze, like here's A and here's B, I went like this and, you know, and then went back here and, you know what I mean? And then this. And so now I could get you from A to B in a direct line. You know what I mean? Like, so I could tell you how to avoid certain pitfalls. But yeah, it's School of Hard Knocks is just figuring out along the way how to do certain things. And I guess the one thing that I've learned over 15, 20 years of raising money and putting movies together is you just got to make the project better. You just got to keep adding value to the project. And if you can add value to something and make it more and more valuable, then money's easy because then you're not asking anybody for money. You're letting them in on value. You know what I mean? If I said, if I had a time machine, Dale, and I could go 5 years in the future and say this other movie that I'm doing is going to make $10 million for the investors. And then, so I got back in the time machine, I came back here. Wouldn't I be, all my friends would be like, dude, you got to pay me the money. I would have no fear asking anybody for the money because I saw that it was going to make $10 million in the future. Now, the time machine is just an example of what I'm saying is that the more and more confident you feel about the value that you're giving, it's much easier to raise the money for the movie. And that's it, because then you're letting somebody in instead of asking them for a favor, so to speak.
So if I'm John Doe and I live in, Omaha, Nebraska, how do I go about turning my dreams into reality? How do I get the money? Do I rely on a rich uncle? How to represent, just like you're explaining to someone who knows nothing about the industry, how would you go about setting to make a movie? If you have a script which you think is good, how would you go about that?
Well, I covered all in my new book. No, I'm just kidding. I just start plugging my stuff. No, look at the key is this, is that if that's the goal that you set out to do, there are certain steps that you can take. It's tough to just say, go do this. I will say that in many ways, the key is leverage. And if you want to make your movie, you've got to create some form of leverage. Now, what does that mean? Leverage could be a killer script. Leverage could be a rights to something. If I got the rights to the Muhammad Ali story or something like that, it's like, that's leverage, you know? The greatest producer of all time, who I got to meet twice, Robert Evans, who produced The Godfather and Love Story, Chinatown, Godfather 2. He basically created Paramount Studios, or took them from 9th to 1st. And his entire career started by optioning a book called The Detective. There was a book that he got the rights to, and it was hot, and everybody wanted to make it. And he said, well, if you're going to make it, I got to be the producer. And once that, so that you see what I'm saying, you created that leverage there. So leverage can be money. Leverage can also be a star that you're friends with. But look, you're saying specifically the guy in Oklahoma that has no connection to the industry. Well, then that's where you got to start from scratch and do the right things. Like, that person may think their script is good. Is it though? Have they had any coverage on it? Have they had a real reader check it out? And by the way, before they wrote that screenplay, how many screenplays did they read? Or did they just watch movies and say, I could do this, which is to me the biggest BS. I call that the equivalent of watching Open Heart Surgery and being like, well, I could do that. I saw what is going on. Like, you got to actually know the techniques of screenwriting. If you've never read a screenplay, I can guarantee you're not going to be able to write a great screenplay. So there's all these steps you need to take from the start, but approaching it from a professional way, and especially not just going out and shooting something, is the way to start. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. So you co-own a major distribution, Glass House Productions.
And Glass House Distribution. Yes. Glass House Distribution.
Productions, yes. Tomato, tomato. Come on.
Well, Trick Candle Productions is my production company. Glass House Distribution is sales and distribution.
Yeah, okay.
It's okay.
Wow, I love this interview.
Did I throw it? Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have to scrap it.
I gotta start. What's your name again? Who am I talking to? So what do you do with that company? Do you, like, after you make the movie and you want people to see it, what is that process like?
Okay, well that's why I clarified it. Glass House does not make movies, so that's something that I wanted to. That's the reason it's not productions. My Trick Candle, that's the business that I used to make films, and the key is they can tie together, meaning Glass House is sales and distribution of finished movies or almost finished movies that we could pre-sell. You see what I'm saying? And they're not my movies. I mean, I think there's like there's 2 actually in the entire catalog, about 50 movies that I have hands-on as a producer. So the key is, there's 2 different questions. If you finish a film, now I put myself in a position by creating this company that I could do the foreign sales, or my company could do the foreign sales for the film internally, which is great. But then we can also, I have relationships with all the major distributors and sales agents. It's like this AFM, if it happens in November this year, because Cannes was just canceled, and I had my ticket. I'd be leaving next Tuesday, the 12th. I could see it on the freaking calendar right there. And so if AFM happens this year, this will be my 15th year in a row going to the American film market. So that's just putting the time in to forge relationships, and you had heard my strategy about being the fun crowd and being a fun person and kind of being social. And that's work, baby. It's like this 15 years of going there and meeting people and going to parties and drinking and laughing and handing business cards and getting business cards and following up with those business cards, that I put myself in a position to have a lot of contacts. Now, if you're the guy in Oklahoma and you're listening and you go, well, I don't have those, and I don't have, then you partner with somebody like me, or, or hire somebody like me to produce. That's the quickest way. If you want the quickest way, I forgot to say that before, the quickest way to get to those people that you need to be in business with is to hire somebody or partner with somebody that already has those relationships. Partnering is the fastest way to the top. There's no question. So.
Well, I always kid you, like, everybody in Hollywood. I mean, you're 1 degree removed. As an example, you and I were going to an event together, and Jack Black was there, and I was getting ready to introduce you to Jack, and before I could even open my mouth, you guys are hugging. And he's like, Tom, it's good to see you, man. And I'm like, of course, Tom knows Jack. So how did that relationship happen? It came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, the key, all right, there's a strategy that I can tell to anybody. That it comes from Michael Caine, and it's that he said that there's in Hollywood, there's the A crowd, B crowd, C crowd, D crowd, and as far as levels of celebrity, and Jack Black is definitely A crowd, but you never the A crowd never hangs out with the B crowd because the B crowd's always asking the A crowd for jobs. B never hangs out with C because they're always asking all the way down. He says, but there's a
– like me.
Yes. Yeah. So I was D plus. And so what I was going to say is that there's a fifth crowd that's called the fun crowd. And the fun crowd can hang out with A, B, C, or D because they're not asking for jobs. And they're just having a good time. Now, doesn't mean that jobs won't come from hanging out and being friends with those people. In fact, they most definitely do. But the key with that is, like specifically Jack, our kids were in a music class together. And we just met Jack and his wife, Tanya, and my ex-wife hit it off with his wife. And so then we just started hanging out. But as far as there was one New Year's Eve where they were over our house, and then New Year's Day we were over their house. It was like, so that's the key. And now him and I haven't done any projects together, but the cool thing is that, if you're hanging out socially, or say there's a project that's coming up that it's right, well, then we have that direct line, and I have never pitched him anything before. And so it's a potentially open situation. But the key, I guess, there is that always be the fun person that's not, looking and trying to angle and go, how can I get this guy to be involved? It's just like, just have a good time. And obviously, as you can see, having hung out with you many, many times, I definitely know how to have a good time. Maybe too good a time. So
hey, you should be lucky I can't show pictures or video on this thing because I'm too technology.
Thank God.
But, okay, so warning coming up, excessive name dropping, douchebag name dropping. That's coming up.
Nice.
So warning.
It's called DNM. DMD. Yes, douchebag name dropping. DND.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were at this one poker tournament. Actually, I think it was Jack's. And, it was at the end of the day. We'd both been there forever. And Tom's like, hey, I'm going to this party. This is like 9, 10 o'clock at night. Do you want to go? And I'm like, no, I'm tired. I'm going to go home. And he guilted me into going with him.
I did.
And so we just walk into this party, which was that at the Sky Bar, Mondrian?
No. It was at Roosevelt. No. It wasn't the Roosevelt. It was that other one on Sunset, that old Deco hotel on Sunset, I think.
Anyway, we walk in, and it was the A-list to everybody. Like, who all do you remember being there, Tom? I'll let you.
Well,
I can drop the name.
I'll tell you I knew you were going to ask me about this, and I wrote down the names. By the way, I
know Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. Well, wait. Let me give the background for the story first, real quick. I just want to say that the joke about this story, and because there's two caveats of Hollywood in here, was that I had brought a girl to this poker tournament that's now a soap star, but it was a wannabe at the time and trying to meet any Hollywood celebrity she could. And so, but I knew that we didn't have any chemistry together. Like, I knew that from date 1. This was like date 3. But it was fun to hang out with. Anyway, I got her into Jack Black's tournament. She met all the people, all the celebrities that were there. And then left early to go to some black box Hollywood, club, with black light. You can't see anybody. And so that was her loss. And I always think that's so funny because she was so excited to, meet celebrities. And then she left to go to some stupid club in Hollywood. The joke is we got into this party through my friend Raphael. Amare called me. And we got into, I believe it was the after party for The Big Short. And so it was just a party because they had finished filming or premiered or whatever. But yeah, you want to go on the list? It was Steve Carell, Daniel Craig, Quentin Tarantino, Seth MacFarlane, Michael Keaton, Ryan Gosling, Brad Gray, president of Paramount, who passed away, David Spade, Johnny Depp is who I forgot initially. Johnny Depp was there, and the mayor of L.A., or the former mayor of L.A., Big Rosa, who we did shots with, but that was fun. And, and that was the biggest A-list as far as, and it was just, it wasn't like there was 5,000 people. There was probably 80 people there. That was the best part. It wasn't like everybody was there. We're talking to Gosling. I had a great 20-minute conversation with Tarantino. You had to talk with Seth MacFarlane. The key, I think, is the other Hollywood caveat that I wanted to say is we were with someone who was, one was drunk, like sloppy drunk, which you'll never see me or you getting especially when there's work to be involved. And number 2 was pulling the whole pitching shit. So much so that I wanted him out of there. Like, I was literally avoiding any celebrity. I was like, get him away from me, because he was just, I got this new business coming up and pitching. And it was like, oh my God, shut the F up, And it's just a mistake, because here he is pitching to Quentin Tarantino at this party. And Quentin's not going to buy it. What the fuck? Quentin's not going to be involved in this shit. But versus me, we talked about a movie that I knew through a friend that he loved and I also loved. It's called Rolling Thunder. And we started talking to the movie and geeking out about this movie. Now, haven't seen him since then, haven't talked to him since then. But one day, if I'm auditioning for him or working on a movie with him, I'm going to bring back up, dude, remember we met on the top of it's not the Roosevelt. I can't remember the name of the hotel, but let's just say the Roosevelt. We met at the top of the Roosevelt, and we talked about the Rolling Thunder. He's going to go, oh my God, yes, that was so fun, because we were both definitely having fun talking about that. I never asked him for anything. That was the end of it. And it's like, that's what you have. That's the way to act in Hollywood. That's the best example. Like literally going to the granular level is to just have a good time, be a friendly person, and you never know what's going to come of it. So
cool. So I want to remind people, if you have a question for Tom, put it in the comments, and we'll get to it here in a few minutes when we start winding it down. I want to go through and talk about some of your projects. Love and Dancing, which was a big movie that you did with, I believe, Amy Smart. And I also want you to tell the story about how you got Betty White involved. Everybody loves Betty White, and so go into that part.
Yeah, that's like a highlight of my career, was dancing with Betty White in that movie. Well, Love and Dancing was a passion project that I wanted to do for a while. It was a dance film romantic comedy, and I just teach ballroom dancing. So I had kind of secured myself in the role of the lead male in there, because I knew that dance. It's called West Coast Swing, and I was good at it, great at it. And so Amy Smart was in it, and she was the first actress that signed on. Then we got Billy Zane. Then we got Rachel Dratch, Caroline Ray. There's some other people that I feel horrible for forgetting. But anyway, Betty White was there when we were shooting in New Mexico. And with her, she's big on zoos, right? And there was an ape in LA Zoo, and I think the sister ape was in the New Mexico Zoo. So we told her that she had to shoot the film with us, or we'd kill that ape. No, I'm kidding. We told her that if she came to New Mexico, we'd spend another day giving her a tour of the zoo, and she could see the ape. And so for her, she was like, hell yeah. So we paid her to come to shoot the day, and it was great. And again, a highlight of my career. And then, and she was like everybody's grandma, she was amazing. And then the next day, took her on the tour of the zoo. I did not go, unfortunately. I thought I was going to get a chance, but it was one of these things like the schedule changed, and suddenly I was shooting that day. And anyway, but yeah, no, Love and Dance was great. Looking back on my career, there were so many films that I go, if I could just change certain things. With that movie, it was maybe one or two casting things, but also we did it as an indie, and the budget expanded so much that it looked like a studio film, but a cheap studio film. And so we got right in that soft zone of, if we had just made it look cheaper, people would have gone, this indie's amazing. Or we made it look more expensive, but we didn't have the money to do that. And it also was released opposite Star Trek, the first one with Chris Pine. It's like, come on, we just got crushed in the theaters. So, you look back, in hindsight's 20/20, and so each film is like another, swing at on the base, trying to knock one out of the park. In that case, we didn't, but I always really loved that movie. And, I have another dance film, romantic comedy that I'm developing, because I'm not, me, I just don't give up. I don't want to give up and say, well, now I'm much older and blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, okay, let's change the story now, make it a different type of thing, and see where this goes. And maybe this is the one that connects.
Well, the part of the story I was looking for with Betty White was how her gentle touch turns you from a boy into a man, and the after party. But we'll
yes.
We'll get into that.
I still text her, why won't you call me back? No.
Oh, we love Betty. Who doesn't? So the Alphabet Killer, going from a Love and Dancing movie, was that after Love and Dancing? And
no, Alphabet Killer was before. That Alphabet Killer was right after The Attic, the one that I told you about with Elizabeth Moss.
And that was the kid from The Princess Bride. Is that?
Oh yes, the kid who's older than both of us. But yes, it was Eliza Dushku. That was Carrie Elways, The Princess Bride. Tim Hutton, Academy Award winner. Melissa Leo, Academy Award winner. Tom Noonan, Michael Ironside. It was Martin Donovan. That was a great cast we had for that film. And and I was like maybe the third biggest role in that one. I'd say third biggest role. But I wrote that one as well. And that was my friend Greg Wood funded that. And that was cool. There's a true story about an unsolved murder in Rochester. And it was my mother-in-law who told me about it. I said, I just finished The Attic and I want to do another horror movie. And she said, there's this unsolved murder in Rochester. You should look into that. And I found it was a random incident, but my ex-wife's sister was dating a guy whose mother was on the case. I don't know if you want to I'll have to show you on a Venn diagram how that worked. But anyway, I had direct access to information on the case and started writing the movie. And then we got Rob Schmidt, the director of Wrong Turn, to direct it. And I'm really proud of that movie. Again, I don't think the release was handled well. and it could have gone farther. But if you watch it, it's a lot like the movie Zodiac, but just a lot less boring. I really like that film. It's still to this day. So.
Yeah, and you did another one, and this one was recent. I remember because I was with you, and out of the blue, I think we were having dinner somewhere, and you said, I think I feel like I'm gonna do a sci-fi movie this year, and then.
Did I?
6 months later, you're releasing a sci-fi movie. So what was?
No. Screamers was horror. Screamers was horror. Is that the film you're talking about, or no?
I'm a fan. Yeah, sci-fi horror.
It's a lot of this, a lot of drinking, but that movie came to be. Again, it's if you want the exact story, I can tell you the exact story. It was a little different than that, but it's okay. The exact story was I was with my daughter, and my daughter Ella, who's now 15. She's a horror fan, and we were at a haunted hayride in upstate New York, and I had no horror movie on my agenda and wasn't thinking about a horror movie. And what happened was, what I love about Halloween, the whole holiday, is like you see the guy with the chainsaw come up, without the chain on it, and scare the crap out of these people, and then they scream, and then they start laughing. And I remembered the fans of Alphabet Killer, because by that point had been 7-8 years since Alphabet Killer, and I remember the fans and how cool they were. And I just went on Facebook and I said, I just decided right now I want to make another horror movie. And normal Facebook, I'll get 100 likes and whatever comments here and there. This one had like 400, and it had maybe 200 comments. People going, even Elijah Dushku goes, I'm in on that comment chain. And so what happened was, then I started talking about it after, and that's probably when I told you I was doing it. Because that was, and I know this is true because I remember one of the times, you came to AFM, and that's what happened was October, say 15th was when I was at the Halloween with my daughter. I just felt this surge of energy, and that's why I posted to Facebook. But what is the good lesson here is when you follow the energy, AFM is around first week in November. So say it's November 6th or 7th. So that's probably when I saw you. And so by that end of AFM, I closed the money for it, and we were shooting in February. So going from not even having an idea of what to shoot, posting that on Facebook with my daughter, I'm going to shoot a horror movie, to financing it within a month and shooting it in February was pretty damn good. And that's what I tell everybody. If you follow the energy of the universe or God or however we're going to say it, when you feel those swells, you've got to follow them. If suddenly your intuition's saying, I should do this, I should write a comic book, I should do, you know what I mean? I should do this thing over here. That's when you got to follow it. And that's how you have results.
You mentioned Cannes earlier, which is the biggest film festival in the world, or money plays, whatever. So, for people that never get the opportunity to go there, and you said you've done, multiple years ago, what is that experience like? It's in France, and it's all industry there. Walk us through that.
Well, what's cool about, and there's 2 Cannes posters. That's the 71st and then the 70th. I've been there now 7 times. It would have been my 8th time going this year. I can't look at, if you love movies, it is a magical place. Michelle, who works for me and is also my producing partner, we say that it's Disneyland in a lot of ways for film lovers and filmmakers, because you have the marché de film, which is the market where you sell movies. And so for my company, we're selling movies, making deals. And then you have the actual Cannes Film Festival, which is the biggest film festival in the world. And what's cool about it there's a trend in Hollywood. And any of the stars you'd interview would be able to tell you this. And I don't know how they feel about it, but I don't like it really. And it's this, especially with hosts of things, it's almost like you got to be too cool. You got to be too cool for Hollywood. Like every Oscar host has to make fun of everybody. And I'm not saying you got to kiss ass, but the key is that in Cannes, they still look at films like art. And who's the president of the Academy? Is it still Cheryl Boone Isaacs? I couldn't even tell you. And I'm a huge fan of the Academy. I don't even freaking know who's the exact president. Everybody in Cannes knows Thierry Frémaux is the head of Cannes, and they kiss his ass. With the couple of years I was there, huge A-list stars, Cate Blanchett, Will Smith, up there and bowing to this guy because the head of the festival is king there and selects the movies himself. And there's just a ceremony and again, it's not about taking themselves too seriously. It's about films are art there. And so you go to these premieres, and The Artist, which won Best Picture, was the first time it was ever shown. I was there in the cinema. And last year, Parasite. I was the first person that ever saw Parasite. That was the first time it was ever shown in public. Was May of last year, and then won Best Picture. So I've been able to do that and see these incredible movies in Cannes for the first time. And so it's magical. And what's so cool is you got to wear a tuxedo on red carpet, and they're a lot less strict now, but they used to be even more strict. I remember the first time I was ever on the Cannes red carpet was like 8-9 years ago, and I had my own tuxedo, but I had a tie instead of a bow tie, and they didn't let me on the red carpet. And I was like, oh shit. And I'm freaking out going, oh my God, I'm gonna miss my opportunity. It's the first time ever. And it's the second biggest red carpet. Oscar's #1, Cannes #2 as far as size of red carpet. And I'm like freaking out going, what the hell am I gonna do? And there's a guy there selling these shitty bow ties for like 40 euros. And thank God I had cash on me and I'm buying a bow tie. And it's just, I put it on, strapped it on, and then they let me on the red carpet. But that's how serious they were. You couldn't even get on the red carpet unless you had that formal of a tuxedo. So, but it's, you know, it's a magical place if you like movies, and obviously beautiful women.
Wow. So as we start to wind down here, if I could get my brother-in-law Mike to bring me, if we have any questions in the comments, I don't know, can't see it from here, but yeah. And you're also an in-demand speaker, and I want to reiterate that Tom, you know, stars in his movies. He writes them, he raises money and produces them. He does everything. I don't think you've directed, maybe
no,
that, but he does everything, and he's an in-demand speaker, and so. You have a website for that, and so if we can get into maybe just a taste of what you talk about at these speeches, and then where they can go if people are interested in learning how to make a movie and to raise money and get in the industry.
Totally. Like, you know, and I'll just point out that a lot of times today I'm producing stuff that's not, you know, it's not about me being in the lead role or anything like that. You know, that was one time I got away with that with Love and Dancing, or maybe Hero of the Underworld. But the key is that I'm always trying to now, you know, there's a lot of other films that I'm putting together that you know, that I'm just producing or writing or whatever. Anyway, all of those steps that I told you that when I took the zigzag pattern to get from A to B, and I've tried to streamline that into a straight direct line, A to B. And Bankroll that you mentioned about, you know, taking the bull by the horns and doing your own film, that came out, the first edition in 2008. The second edition was 2012. And then the publishers asked me to do a third edition, and I said no. I turned them down, and the main reason being is like, I guess you could self-publish a book, but to get it through a publisher, it's like a year and a half. You write you write the book, and then it's edited. Then the galley comes back, and then you got to get the reviews because you have to send it out to people to give quotes on the back and review it and shit like that, right? So that's a long process, and I really felt that if in a year and a half so much would change in the movie business, that it wasn't worth it. So I started putting stuff online. And now that has evolved into Filmmaking Stuff HQ, Filmmaking Stuff HQ for headquarters. And it's a partnership with a guy named Jason Brubaker. And we teach filmmaking on there. And it's mainly me. He runs the digital background side of it. But it's like, Dale, and when I tell you we have hundreds of hours of content from everything, writing scripts, attending film markets, producing films, raising money, developing movies, all that stuff. And so it's a membership type of thing where people go in there. They could buy one-off on modules and things like that, but they could just sign up and get all the training and get access to me and Jason twice a month on a call. Like if you're a member, you can come to these mastermind calls where we answer direct questions. And I always say that's like a huge value because I don't consult on movies anymore. There was a time when I would do that, but it's like you could pay me $600 an hour to do that. Back then, I don't do it. There's no price. Well, I wouldn't say that. Probably a price you could pay me to consult, but that's not something I actively pursue. And anyway, but if they're members, they can sign and ask questions. So that's where everything is as far as that goes. And it's been doing very well for us. And everybody that's on there really seems to get the information. One of the things I pride myself on in my speeches, webinars, this membership site is I don't hold anything back. I'm not like, well, I'll tell them this, but in reality, I'm doing this extra thing. No way, man. I give the farm because what does it hurt to throw it out there? There's space for everybody to be making a movie. I'd love to see you see that picture? That's John Cassavetes, who's like my idol as an independent filmmaker, produced, directed, acted. He was a great actor. And that's a picture of him that I blew up. And then I put a quote underneath it that I love to say in my webinars. And I'll read you the quote. And it's, I like to act in films. I like to shoot them. I like to direct them. I like to be around them. I like the feel of it. And it's something I respect. It doesn't make any difference whether it's a crappy film or a good film. Anybody who can make a film, I already love. And so it's like kind of my motto that I live by. And so if you're out there and you want to make a film and you could do it, then we're friends. There you go.
That's awesome. And great quote. I've never seen that. And
thanks.
Again, where do people go for information? Is there a website?
Yes, filmmakingstuffhq.com is the membership site. You know, and then you can, that's the best way. And you can even reach out through there, through me, Tom Malloy on Instagram, Tommy Malloy on Twitter. And but I'm not really a Twitter guy as much, even though I'm verified on Twitter. I barely use Twitter. But Tom Malloy on Instagram is another way to do it. So,
cool. Okay, so we have a couple questions from people that are watching. From Mike Van Tilburg, what type of movie do you prefer to produce or be involved with, horror or comedy?
It's funny because you just named the two that I love the most, but I haven't really done as many comedies. I love comedy. In fact, I have a comedy partner, Scott Baker, that we do stuff with, and we have a new thing that we just produced, I kid you not, in the quarantine that we're going to come out with. But at the same time, horror is where the fans are. Like the fans of horror movies are just so great. They're not as dickish as other people on the internet. Let's put it that way. So look, obviously there's been times I thought Screamers was a masterpiece of a movie directed by Dean Ronalds, and it's about, you get a split on it. And some people are like, this is the greatest, and then some people are like, yeah, I hate this movie. Whatever. You can't please everybody. And but the horror people that come to see it, that they go to the festivals, that really love the movies, it's fun. And it's fun chopping people up on set. Elizabeth Moss cut my neck open in the attic, and that was freaking awesome, just to have your neck ripped apart with a knife. So that kind of stuff is fun. But comedy's the same thing. It's like really cool. It's like when it's too dramatic, like Here at the Underworld or Fairhaven, there's a lot of serious moments on set, as you saw. You were in both of those movies. There's like a lot of times where there was like tension, and it's like, okay, that's good and it's fun, and I like doing them, but I would obviously prefer horrors or comedy. They're a lot more fun to do.
Okay, and also from Mike, what weighs in your decision of what you're going to choose to do? Is it money, quality of script? What intangibles are we looking for?
Both, basically. Those are the two. You named them right there. It's like the quality of the script is the first thing. You know what I mean? The key is quality of the script. The money doesn't even matter at that point. A lot of times, especially now when it's a little bit more breathing room. There was a time I had to take anything because it's like, well, shit, I got to pay the bills. And so that when you remove a little bit of the money from the equation, you can be more picky about the stuff. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to get involved in a movie and it's $10 million budget and it's like, okay, even if it's not that good, I'll go, great, I'm going to bring in some script writers, or I'll rewrite the script myself and get involved. The last thing that I would say is also talent attached. You know what I mean? If you come to me and you say, like, for example, there was a comedy script that came to me that had Kenan Thompson attached, and Kenan had all these connections to all the comedian, Kevin Hart and all the people that had been on, and all the SNL cast. And it was an okay script. So I literally, for free, rewrote the entire script. Because it's like, and I say for free because it's like a Writers Guild rewrite is like a $40,000 job. I rewrote the entire script because it's like, I want to be in business with you. So talent is the third thing. So it's like money, script, talent, combination of the three. One's got to be really strong, though, and then that's how they leverage me, I guess.
Cool. Okay. Scott Bailey, our good friend, did you guys get handsomer? I assume he means you during the pandemic.
Hey, nice.
Handsome guy on the planet. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, exactly. These soap opera actors. It's like, geez, I always knew I was like, I never attempted soap operas. I think you did a little bit, but I'm like, I guess that's not my look. I'm not that pretty.
That's my one joke. I'm not a doctor, but I played one on TV.
Did you?
I do it to death. Yeah, Dr. Derek Jean. Go look it up, man. I was terrible.
Hilarious.
Actually, Jason Torres, who we also know. What's the membership fee for your website? Good question, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, man. There's two. There's a $97 a month, and you get access to literally everything. And there's downloads like business plans and templates and stuff like that you keep, and there's no like, you got to be in for a year, you need to keep it. You can literally go on, download everything, and then cancel after a month. Then there's another smaller one that's $47, but you don't get access to the mastermind call. To me, it's like, pay an extra $50 to get exact direction. Like on those calls, it's not like you go, what does a DSLR mean? And I go, digital single lens reflex. They go, okay, here's my problem. How can I fix it? And I'll go, okay, this is step 1, 2, 3. Do all these steps, and then on the next call, tell me where you're at, and I'll tell you the next step. And so that kind of stuff to me is invaluable. But so it's either $47 a month or $97 a month. But again, I've always encouraged people to jump on and try it, because the worst you can lose is the 1 month. But you can still get all those. You'll have a film business plan, all those other aspects if you're a member that you get to keep. I mean, look, we try to give, again, just like I'm talking about when I'm raising money, you want to give as much value as possible. And that's when you start getting money in return. So for us, it was like, let's make this a freaking site where there's so much value that you couldn't learn. You can go to film school, you know, and spend $40,000 going to film school, you know what I mean? Or go on our site and learn everything from actual filmmakers. And that should be a lot more important.
All right. I don't even know if this is a serious question. It's from Danny Walker. Tell the hand count game story on the girl who beat you. I don't know what that means.
Oh, that's a great story. No, that's a great story. When the hell did I ever tell him that story is what I'm thinking. I can't, that's so funny. I'm trying to, oh, wait a minute. I wonder where I saw, anyway, okay. Well, this, I'll have to see, I guess I can go on video. I tell this story in my webinar because what I do is, not in my webinar, excuse me, my live speeches. Because what I'll do is this, I'll say, everybody stand up, and it gets everybody standing up. And so what happens is everybody stands up, so there's already an energy. And I say, stand back to back. And I go, if there's 3 people, do a little triangle, everybody back to back, but that's it, no more than 3. And then what you do is you put up on your fingers a number, you know what I mean? So if I was to do this, that'd be 3, or this would be 4, let's just say. And then you put up a number right now. Dale, show me a number, right? You just got to show it on the screen. I can't, it actually went out because of the background. So 3. So
it'll pick it up. So I'm holding up
3, it looks like. So 3. So I went 4, you went 3. The first person to count everybody's and say 7, because mine 4 and your 3 wins, right? And so I had people do this, and I played 3 rounds of the game. What happens then is I sit everybody down, and I said, all right, who had a strategy? And some people had no strategy. First I asked who won 3 times in a row. And somebody will say, and I said, what's your strategy? And I go over, again, I don't want to take too long on this story, but what happens is I go over strategies because there are strategies to win, which is knowing the number that you're going to go in with. So I say 4, I know it's the number, but there you also have to add to that strategy. I can't keep going 4, or you know that I'm going to do 4 for 3 rounds in a row. So the second strategy is to mix the number up. So know what you're going to do going in, so that I know I'm going to throw 4. I'm not guessing my own number. So all I have to do is look at yours and add it to mine, and then pick easy numbers that you know how to do math to. If I know 5 and then you throw up 7, I go 12. Boom. You know what I mean? So what happened, the Danny part of the story that's funny, is that I tell this as in investor meetings. You need to go in with a strategy, and you need to be able to change up that strategy based on the investor. But then I always say there's always going to be a curveball. And the reason he says the little girl was that what happened is I used to do this game for the teachers when I would speak, because I used to, you know this, Brad, I don't know if this is covered, but years ago I used to motivational speak for kids, talk about being positive as an anti-bullying speech, all from a positive, you know, somebody hadn't done drugs, all this stuff, and it was a positive speech, and spoke to over 100,000 kids. Some of them told me that got them off drugs and stopped them from committing suicide, all kinds of craziness. It was amazing. And so I would speak to the teachers, and what I'd do is I'd have everybody play this game, and then I would play them, and I'd always win because I knew the strategies going in. It's like I never lost. And then one day I was teaching this acting class of kids, and I'm not kidding, this kid had to be 9 years old, and she kicked the crap out of me. And I was like, I can't believe you just beat me. I've not lost to adults. And this girl, and I'll tell you that her secret was she was doing like this kind of crazy crap. Like she was mixing up the finger placement, so it was so tough to count her fingers. And I go, oh my God, the joke is that her name escapes me. But I said, you are the first person that's ever beat me in this game because you were doing this. And I said, you never know, like if somebody gives you fingers like this, that's tough to count. You know what I mean? And I always say that first off, I had her kicked out of the class and never, no, I'm just kidding. The key is, I just said that was amazing, but you never know the curveball that's going to come your way when you're meeting with an investor, you're trying to pitch a project. Crazy stuff has happened. I pitched an investor once. He got a phone call. It was going great. And he got a phone call right in the middle that his son had stolen like 50,000 from him. And he's like, he's literally on the phone. You're out of the family screaming. And it was like, I went, well, there goes my meeting. You know what I mean? Like if this had just happened 10 minutes later, I would have been out the door. But, you know, so you always have to be ready for the curveball. And that's the story. I hope that didn't take too long.
No, it's great. Good question, Danny Walker from Memphis, Tennessee. This question is from Vince Lozano. Who, he's an actor.
Another friend.
Prior to the Caribbean and some other stuff. Yeah. Do you have any funny stories from being drunk on set?
Well, no, I do not. Because, you know, the key there is, and Vince and I did co-starred in a movie together called Trauma Therapy. He was awesome in it. I was awesome. I mean, I played like an evil Tony Robbins, and he was like my Igor to Frankenstein. He was like my right-hand man in the movie. I would never get actual drunk on set. So I think maybe he's talking about like post, because I'm trying to think, is there any time where I completely got like hammered in front of him at a party or something like that? But what the key is, look, I'll say that I take filmmaking very seriously. And so I would never, if I was shooting the next day, I would have 1-2 beers. That's it, man. I'm never getting wasted, because then the next day you're like this on set, or you're doing, and guess what? Your face is on camera forever. So it's like you couldn't hold yourself back for one day to be on camera forever, like doing like this, you know what I mean? So I would never get drunk on set. I remember Love and Dancing, the crew used to go nuts every night. It's like I go out and have 1 or 2 drinks. But, I mean, obviously, if I had the day off the next day, then I could have a lot of fun. But, so I'd say that's the thing, is I never really would party too hard on set if I had to shoot the next day, or, because it's like you have to keep up your professionalism. So,
yeah, I can confirm that. I've tried in the movies that we've done together to peer pressure him into, come on, Tom. And he won't do it. He won't budge. And I don't either, but I was trying to force him into it, and he wouldn't bite.
A perfect example is the night you mentioned Greg's house. You guys went ATVing in the freaking snow, which was so dangerous. David Lawrence flipped off the damn ATV. Greg, for some reason, didn't care that you guys were going 50 miles an hour on his ATVs. I left. Remember? I wasn't there. I didn't do the ATVs. I'm like, I'm not doing that shit. So
I thought that was insane, because it's literally 2 a.m. We're in upstate New York at his mansion, and there's the woods back there, 3 feet of snow, and everybody's just drunk. Not me, I don't drink, but everybody's just on these ATVs, and somebody could have died. And Greg, the owner, who I guess would have been liable, and he didn't care at all. And I just thought that was insanity.
It was crazy. I mean, look at. If I didn't shoot, if I wasn't in the middle of the shoot, I would have been there. I probably would have been the guy that took it too far. Let's put it that way. But and no, it was like I was shooting. I didn't want to ruin it. It's like, again, even if I was to fall and scrape my face, and it was like it was a non-injury that was going to go away. Well, there goes that. Like to the next one, I got to put makeup on. I got to look stupid on set. It's like, and forever that will be in the movie. No way. Can't take that risk.
Okay, Jason Torres, who's one person on your bucket list that you'd like to work with, but besides DaleWadeDavis? We know that's a good one.
I've done it. I've worked with Dale. That's a good question, too. Wow, Jason with the good questions today. So, well, it would be, okay, I've never really thought about this. I'll just say that. And it's true. That's a 100% true statement. It would be somebody that I could prove acting-wise or comedy-wise that I could do, that I could match them. So on the comedy, take somebody like Will Ferrell. I would love to improvise some scenes with him and, be giving him the lines that's making him break character. So like that's on the comedy side. On the acting side, it would be somebody, that I could really get serious. And Sean Penn, is probably the best living actor, I guess I'd say. And it's like somebody that I could really get intense with. And, I'll tell you one of the highlights of my life, and everybody knew Elizabeth was going to be a major star. She'd already won the Indie Spirit Award, and she was in Mad Men, and, she was in West Wing, and she was going to Mad Men, and they knew she was going to be a huge star. And on the first day, when I was fully in character as my autistic character in the attic, nobody had seen it because I kept it inside until we started shooting. And the first day, we're getting through the makeup, and she comes in my dressing room, and she looks at me, and she goes, "You're good." And I was like, "That's right, you damn right I am." And it was a great feeling. But of course I was like, "Thank you so much." And it's like a great feeling to get validation from those people. I worked with Ray Wise, who, anybody could, you may not know him from your name, but you look him up, you go, yeah, he's been in a billion movies. And he played my dad in the movie. And it was just fun. We had a scene with a psychiatrist who was a former soap star long time ago. She couldn't remember her lines. And it was just, him and I were so equal to each other, nailing the scenes with each other. And then we got to that, and she's messed up her lines. And I remember we went outside, and we were like, oh yeah, like this sucks. And so it's just fun when you can bring your A game. Imagine, here's to Jason Torres, who plays basketball. Imagine if you could be, playing one-on-one with Jordan, and you could be doing as good as he was, or LeBron be doing as good as he was. How would that feel to what you do? It's like, for me, that's the goal, and that's what I know I could do, and want to keep doing.
Yeah, this question comes from DaleWadeDavis of Shelbyville, Texas. Who's a better poker player, you or Dale?
Well, I will say this. I am not shocked, but I am pleasantly surprised by your online skill. But as Scott Bailey, who may still be listening, pointed out, there is a different dynamic for playing in a live game versus playing online. And it's so funny because I haven't won our little online little circle yet because my game is so tuned to tournaments, which I last freaking long time. You know, I may not have taken down a ton, but I'm always at the final table, you know, and Scott Bailey's a great player too. And house games, I've always felt I've won more than I've lost. And in tournaments, I get very far. There's a different idea for online, and it's quick reads. And somehow you have a super quick read, and you're taking a little bit more chances. It's almost like, let's put it in NASCAR terms so you can understand it, Dale. The guy that usually wins the NASCAR points is not the one with the most first place finishes because he's driving much more conservative. If you drive crazy, you're going to crash a lot. And you do rebuy way more than I do. Most of those games I've only paid $10 I got in the end. So all I'm saying is this: you're a better online poker player. As far as in person, well, who knows? Maybe one day you win, one day I win. Same with Scott Bailey, same with Vince Lozano, same with all those guys. So,
okay, well, as a typical Hollywood producer, you talked for a long time and said absolutely nothing.
He said absolutely nothing? I just don't know how you're reading that quick. I got to have, I just have to have quicker reads. I don't know.
Cool. Yeah. So, all right, we're going to wind it up on that. Tom, thank you so much, man. You're a good, dear friend, and I love you to death, and I appreciate you taking time. And if you want, and he writes, he acts, he produces, he does all of it. So if you're interested in any capacity of getting in the industry, go to his website. And one more time, Tom, what is it?
FilmmakingStuffHQ.com for hitting.
Okay, FilmmakingStuffHQ.com. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll be back next week. And this is really exciting. An actor named Mark Ralston. Look him up. Last name Rolston. You know him from Aliens. He roles coming to mind. He raped Tim Robbins in Shawshank Redemption. Everybody seen that movie. And so he'll be coming up next week, Mark Ralston. And I'm really excited about that one. And Tom, thanks again for joining us. And we'll see everybody next week. Take care.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Thank you.